loaded cannon time. Chelsea 2, Arsenal 2. Arsenal remain unbeaten, and I did not think I was going to be saying that deep into the second half of that game. The only thing sloppier than Arsenal's performance today is Zinchenko's political views. Honestly, like, we were very, very poor today. It has to be said. But there's two ways of looking at this. Either you can be worried about the performance and say we were sloppy, our passing wasn't good enough, we didn't dominate the game enough. You had a bit of possession, but when the team goes 1-0 up, 2-0 up, you're always going to get possession because they'll concede that possession. But really, we were nowhere near good enough. You look at some of our big, big players, and like Erdegaard, for example, simply not his day today. Saka, he did not get enough of the ball. Martinelli had a lot more of the ball. I felt like Arsenal's attacks went down the left-hand side. Martinelli did not create enough given how much of the ball he had. Don't get me wrong, look, he worked hard. But Trossard, when he came on, I mean, look, we have to start asking the question now, what does Trossard need to do to earn a starting place in this team? Because he never lets us down. He's so, so good, such an intelligent player. And with Martinelli, look, I'm a big, big fan of him. I think he's got an unbelievably high ceiling, but he needs more variety, more intelligence, more sort of subtlety to his game. Way too often, he receives the ball in the same way and is not decisive enough. And I have to give him a bit of forgiveness in a way, because with Martinelli, he's such a direct player. He'll receive the ball, face up the man, he'll get a half yard of space. It seems to me, and it happened in this game on many occasions, he doesn't have the confidence or the belief that if I put that ball in first time, when I first get that half yard, that my striker is going to be in that right position. If it's a Haaland, and obviously it's easy to use Haaland as an example, there's no one better in the world than him at doing this. But if you've got Haaland in the middle, you don't even need to look up. You just put it into an area because you know Haaland's going to be in the right area. But we don't have that with Gabriel Jesus. And I like Gabriel Jesus, but again today, like Erdegaard, Gabriel Jesus did not do enough. He was not good enough today. And when you have players like Erdegaard and Jesus, who are so important in that attacking spine of our team, when they're not performing, it's always going to be tougher. And I think we saw that today. But I can't pin it on them. It was a poor team performance today. It was very, very sloppy. The amount of times the ball got sliced today, the conditions didn't help, but I'm not going to blame it on the rain. It rained for both teams, and I think both teams were sloppy. No team played well. But this game was more about silly mistakes or sort of like, it wasn't about quality. It wasn't about really, really good end product for the majority of the game. It was about, poor moments from players. Like the obvious one is, we start with the Saliba penalty, right? And Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and Jamie Carragher were the pundits, if you were watching the game in England, that they were talking about that at half time. And Hasselbank was saying, look, it is a penalty. You can't jump with your arms that high. And Jamie Carragher was saying, well, how else can you jump? You can't jump like sort of like a penguin with your hands by your side. Now, I get both points of view, but what Jamie Carragher was saying, that was true from a pundit's perspective 3 years ago. In today's day and age in football, that's always a penalty. I saw that in real time, and I had no doubt that was going to be given as a penalty, because Saliba, it seemed like he was a bit too far away from his man to sort of jump in the right way. When you're even slightly out of position, you're going to compromise the way in which you try and defend that ball. And that's what happened with Saliba. If he's in the right position, I think it's a completely different story, because even if the ball ends up hitting his hand, he doesn't need to sort of like try and get as much leverage and spread himself as much to try and make the yard or two that he was out of position. So for me, that is on Saliba, and I'm not complaining that was given as a penalty, because let's be really, really honest about this. If that was Thiago Silva, whose arm it hit in that exact same manner, we would all be calling for the penalty, and not a single Arsenal fan would be saying we were lucky to get that penalty. So let me know in the comments below if you agree with me or not. But for me, no complaints about that penalty. Whether I like the rules or not, they are the rules. Now, if it was up to me, the rules would be different. I think, Saliba, yes, he's entitled to jump, and that ball hits him from a yard away. There's nothing you can do about it after he has jumped. But they're the rules. So my opinion is based on the rules, not on what I think the rules should be. I hope that makes sense. And let me know in the comments below what you think of that. Now, I've talked about Saliba being out of position and how that sort of cost us in that moment and ended up conceding the penalty, which led to Chelsea's first goal. Exactly the same is true of David Raya. And it was not a good performance from David Raya today. He made a few regulation saves, and on a couple of occasions he got down quite well when players were trying to go round him. But overall, it was not good enough. He cost us that second goal because of his positioning. His positioning was awful, absolutely awful. Now, there's two elements to his positioning. There's one in terms of where he was in relation to his front post, and there's another in terms of where he was in relation to his goal line. I've got absolutely no issues with where he was in relation to his goal line. He was anticipating the cross. Clearly, Mudryk tried to cross it. It just shows how lucky he got that the cross was so bad that it went flying in. But 99 times out of 100, the player crosses the ball, Raya's in a position to catch that ball, and he, releases Arsenal on the counter attack. This was a 1 in 100 moment where the crosser shanks it and it goes over his head. Now, where I have an issue with Raya's positioning was that he was ahead of his near post. There is no reason to be there. I would understand it if that's a packed penalty area and you feel as though the danger is at the front post. Let's say, for example, you're playing Man City and Haaland, I've used it as an example, is at the front post. That's where the danger lies. But here there was one man in the box and he was not at the front post. So what is Raya doing being that ahead of his front post? Because of that, he was not in a position to just knock that ball over the bar as it came or to do anything with it. Completely got deceived by the flight of the ball. And that's because of his poor position. So, yeah, I was very, very disappointed by that. And, I said this a few weeks ago that I'm not sure that what Arteta has done here with this goalkeeping situation is actually going to get the best out of the goalkeepers. I think it's that one position where mistakes are so costly that it just burdens the goalkeepers with pressure. And I felt like the first half against Man City, although Raya recovered well in the second half, that pressure, you could see it. In this game as well today, I mean, look at that pass that nearly cost us when he went to Palmer. Again, he did well to get down, but he should have put himself in that situation in the first place. I think the pressure is telling. That's the bad side of the game. But the good side of the game, Declan Rice. Listen, I don't think Declan Rice was as good as he usually is, but he grew into the game and he always shows his leadership qualities, always shows for the ball, never ever hides. And even like the sort of belief in himself not to take a touch. When Sanchez played that pass and it was that loose pass, for him to finish that first time and take on the responsibility of having that shot, because if he took a touch and then went for it, no one would remember that and blame him. But it's the fact that he was willing to just give that a go and shoot and execute it so perfectly. The arc of that ball was perfection into the side netting, just inside the post, gave Sanchez no chance. So Declan Rice, I just what a signing he has been. And it's always true of players. When they're that good, when they hit the ground running like that, no one talks about the transfer fee. I cannot believe how well Declan Rice has adjusted. And, if it wasn't for Jude Bellingham, maybe Declan Rice would be getting even more credit. But because they went for roughly the same money in the same transfer window and Bellingham's doing such an incredible job, maybe in terms of the wider football narrative, Declan Rice isn't being spoken about as much because Bellingham, is the star signing of the transfer window. But as far as I'm concerned, Declan Rice is just absolutely smashing it. Now, Saka, I mentioned him earlier. He's always got that knack as well of being involved in the key moments, and his cross right in the danger area. We didn't do that enough. We weren't good enough with that end product today. But Trossard, the control on that finish was so impressive to me, because having to go with the outside of your right foot as that ball's coming in so close to goal is not easy. You have to make sure you get the perfect contact to direct it across. And it's very easy for that to sort of skim off your foot or spin up off your foot. But the control was absolutely brilliant. Trossard has done that so many times for Arsenal. Let me know in the comments below if you think he deserves a starting berth in this team. Now look, we dust ourselves off and we go again. It was not a good performance, but perhaps it's the hallmark of a good team. We remain unbeaten. So I'm going to take the positive out of this, because I would have bitten your hand off if I could have got anything out of the game when Chelsea were 2-0 up and looking like they were coasting. Arteta substitutions, look, they had an impact, and he made a lot of subs. So credit to him for being brave enough to take off some key players like Ødegaard, for example. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Free Palestine, as always. Hit like on this video, and I'll see you tomorrow for my 5 at 5. Take care. Up the Arsenal.